Hello, good morning. Welcome to another exciting day to talk business. My name is Blyden Lukem and it's Business 360. The world is watching and notifying the rest of the world on the implications of businesses and economic outlook. There's a gathering of central banks going on in India. The world's most powerful finance ministers and central bank chiefs are gathering this week with the one-year anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and its impact on the global economy, looming over an agenda focused on the risks of debt and debt distress and fighting inflation. Group of 20 officials are meeting in India's technology hub, Bangalore, as consumer prices in most countries are still uncomfortable and uncomfortably high, and the war in Europe grinds on. China's post-COVID reopening stands out as a bright spot for the global economic outlook, while some hard conversations are expected over Beijing's emergence as the biggest creditor to emerging markets and its role in long-sought debt restructuring. That's the outlook within the meetings, much expectations this week. But let's move to Asian giants, the motor giants Toyota. Japanese motor industry giants Toyota and Honda say they have agreed to give their workers in the country the biggest pay rises in decades. They are the latest firm in the world's third largest economy to increase wages as prices jump. Official figures published last month showed Japan's rate of inflation was at its highest level in over 40 years. That has put pressure on businesses and authorities to help people as the spending power shrinks. Every year, Japanese firms typically hold pay talks with unions for weeks before announcing their decisions around the middle of March. It's a positive outlook from Japan, and big companies are raising paychecks amid higher inflation. Now to a sport business story. Arsenal Women Football Club has increased pay by almost 30% according to reports. However, the entire team still earns considerably less than some individual male players. The total wage bill for the 2021-22 season was £4.3 million, giving an average figure of £98,000 across playing and non-playing staff, up from £2.6 million across 35 staff the year before. It's still far behind the men's team, with a total wage bill in excess of £250 million, according to Deloitte's Football Money League. The salaries of individual players are not declared, but England and Arsenal defender Leah Williamson is thought to be among the women's team highest earners, with a reported salary of £200,000 a week. This compares to the best paid male player, striker Gabriel Jesus and midfielder Thomas Partey, who are reportedly paid a similar sum every week, adding up to over £10 million a year. Quite positivity when there's a major in terms of standing that what women ought to earn ought to level up with what men are earning. Now back to Africa, looking at Tanzania's situation. Tanzania recently approved building a $3.5 billion East Africa crude oil pipeline. The pipeline would transport oil from Uganda to Tanzania. The project is in partnership with China National Offshore Oil Corporation, Total Energies France, and the state-owned Uganda National Oil Company. That the project approval marks yet another milestone for the East African crude oil pipeline. The oil fields and pipeline project has been met with fierce resistance from human rights activists and endangers the region's fragile ecosystem and threatens the lives of tens of thousands of people. One positivity from the country regarding human rights. In Nigeria, the federal government on Wednesday announced the preferred bidder for the concession of the 700 megawatt Zunguru hydroelectric power plants for a fee of $70,250 a year for a period of 30 years. This was disclosed in a statement issued by the head public communications bureau of public enterprises, Chile. It named the preferred bidder as Mainstream Energy Solution Limited and also announced the approval of the merger of Egbin power plant with KEPCO, Energy Resources Nigeria Limited. The 700 megawatt capacity Zunguru HPP is Nigeria's second largest hydroelectricity power station behind the Kanji hydroelectricity power plant, which has a capacity of 760 megawatts. Basis points are the first monetary policy. Looking at what's happening with the Federal Open Market Committee, participants agreed that it was appropriate to raise the target range for the federal funds rate by 25 basis points at the first monetary policy meeting of 2023, although a few officials favored raising it by 50 basis points according to minutes from the last meeting. All participants continued to anticipate that ongoing increases would be appropriate until data provided confidence that U.S. inflation was on a sustained downward path to 2%, which was likely to take some time. It would be a good time to have a perspective from Africa regarding the economy. In the last 4 years, Uganda's citizens have become richer. A report has shown that Uganda has recorded an increase in the number of its middle-class citizens. The report also is courtesy of the Uganda National Household Survey (UNHS) and the Ministry of Finance Poverty Status Report 2021. In Kampala alone, the number of poor residents was reduced by 38%. According to the research, the rise represents a good trend compatible with Uganda Vision 2040, with the number of middle-class Ugandans rising from 14.12 million during the period ended 2017 to 15.64 million in 2022. It is shown that despite the middle class historically being predominantly urban, they are now slowly but surely expanding into rural regions. It will be a good time to look at what's happening within Nigeria and the outlook of economic growth. The economy of Nigeria advanced by 3.52% in the fourth quarter of 2022, a year ago, accelerating from the third quarter 2.25% rise and beating market estimates of a 2.33% growth. This marks the 9th consecutive quarter of expansion, driven by the non-sector at a 4.44% decrease, rather appreciation against 4.27 percentage points in the third quarter, especially services at a positive 5.69%. Agriculture also contributed positively at 2.05 by 18.38% after a 22.67% drop in the previous quarter due to large-scale crude theft barrels per day, up from 1.2 million barrels per day in the third quarter, but down from 1.5 million barrels a year ago. The Nigerian GDP grew by 3.1% in 2022 compared with 3.4% a year earlier. Talking about GDP growth, it would be a good time to look at the chart to see what the annual GDP growth in Nigeria entails. The chart has given an outlook to it from 2020 to 2023. As of January 2020, the growth pattern on a yearly basis was 1.87%, but there was a downturn at negative 6.1% as of July and negative 3.62%. Moving to 2021 January, it went further upward or slightly upward at 0.11% and further upward to 5% in July 2021, but that decline began to happen. January 2022, it was at 3.98% and 3.11% afterwards, and 3.54% in July 2022, but back up to 3.52% in January 2023, not yet to a high level of 5%. Gold declines below $1,825 and near its year-to-date low. Todd Colvin has more to offer. Let's hear from Todd Colvin.
Prices moved lower midweek, seeing a range of about $23 today from $18.23 all the way up to $18.46, but ending the session very close to those lows, and that is very close to last week's year-to-date low of $18.19. Not too long ago, gold was trading close to $1,900. It seemed like things were going to be moving that way for a good long time. They did not. They reversed big come early February, and in the month of February, gold is down about 6.5%. So a big shift lower as the Fed continues to raise rates, as the market continues to price in more expectations for rate hikes down the road, and Treasury yields move higher, and the dollar gets stronger. Gold has suffered again, getting down to $18.23 today, very near last week's year-to-date low of $18.19. Now, the big cause for today's move lower, or one of the big causes, I should say, for today's move lower, were the FOMC minutes from the February 1st FOMC meeting that came out. See how that lines up with the move lower in gold month to date. But the Fed now focuses more on inflation. We're going to continue to focus on inflation, continue to keep rates elevated, and look maybe even to extend the rate hikes beyond what the market had originally priced. A few weeks ago, we were looking at rates peaking out at about 5%. Now the market, based on...
Well, thank you, Todd. And that's the outlook within gold prices and the positivity and downturn in the market. Let's move straight to the market to see what other metals are doing in the morning market. Talking about silver, copper, steel, and iron ore. This morning, let's begin with gold. Current price, $1,826 per ounce, slightly upward this morning by 1.02 point, a 0.06% appreciation. For silver, it's slightly upward, a little here, a little there. No real volatility in the market, but copper is slightly downward. Current price, $4.15 per pound, downward by 0.0322 points, but steel is upward by 21 points. Current price 4,252 Chinese yuan per ton. Iron ore slightly downward this morning, and lithium has no significant difference. Let's look at the energy market. The market is not really volatile regarding the metal market, but the outlook seems different from metal energy perspective rather. Energy market begins the outlook with crude oil. Current price $74 per barrel, slightly upward this morning by 0.2 point, a 0.4% appreciation. For Brent, which is Nigeria's price benchmark, is $80 per barrel, slightly upward too this morning. Natural gas slightly upward, no volatility in the market. Gasoline is also ranging slightly downward by $2.3 per gallon. Heating oil, the same level, $2.7 per gallon, but it's coal that also reasonably with no significant difference, $209 per ton. Let's look at agricultural market. The market has been slow this morning, no reactions, no propensity. The agricultural market gives an outlook for soybeans price. Current price $1,538 per bushel, downward by 1.25 point, a negative 0.08% decline. For wheat is a similar story, no significant difference in the market yet. Lumber, a little here but downward by 5.7 points. Malaysian oil, palm oil, current price 4,232 Malaysian ringgit per ton, upward by 86 points, decent 2.07% gain this morning, and it's been solid for palm oil throughout the week, a 4.03% appreciation for palm oil. It's a little here, a little there for cheese and milk. It would be a good time to look at what's happening in the forex market, the foreign exchange market. We'll begin with an insight in FX market as euro faces downward pressure. Over the last 2 weeks, the euro has begun a downtrend of over 3%. What's keeping bulls at bay? That's the question. Let's find out more for Jim L'Oreal. Let's look at what's happening in the market, talking about the euro against the US dollar and other majors in the market this morning. The market depicts some positivity from different quarters, but a struggle against the US dollar. The euro against the US dollar, euro is still falling downward, current price 1.05 US dollar equaling 1 euro, downward by 0.0, not significant, a 0.09% decline. But a struggle has continued for the euro over the week ago. For the pound against the US dollar, still struggling within the range against the US dollar, 1.2 US dollar equaling 1 pound. No significant difference. For the Aussie against the US dollar, it's a similar story. The Australian dollar is gaining slightly against the US dollar. But the US dollar has been dominant in the market. Let's look at Naira's performance against the US dollar. According to different outlooks, a similar situation with the Naira is struggling back and forth at the 460-459 mark. Current price 459.97 Naira equaling 1 US dollar. No reasonable change in the market. It's been that struggle. For the euro against the Naira, a slight drop. For the euro, Naira is gaining at a 0.1% appreciation for Naira. In turn, a negative depreciation for the euro. For the pound is a similar story, losing grounds to the Naira at negative 1.55 point, a negative 0.28% decline. Let's look at the black market, the performance of Naira in the black market this morning. Current price, if you're buying the dollar against the Naira, it's 767 Naira to $1. At selling rate, it's 759 Naira to $1. Pounds to Naira at buying rate would be 935 Naira to 1 pound and 920 Naira to 1 pound at a selling rate. For the euro to the Naira, the buying rate is 800 Naira to 1 euro and 785 Naira to 1 euro if you're selling. And that's the outlook. All the markets are there. The Canadian dollar, talking about the South African rand, the yuan from China, and the Ghanaian cedi against the Naira. Good time to look at the cryptocurrency market, what the energy is for Bitcoin and other digital assets, talking about Ether and the rest. Bitcoin price this morning, 24,215. It's upward this morning by 413. Bitcoin had reached a 25,000 US dollar margin. It's bounced at that reach for over 5 times. We don't know what the outcome would be in the coming days, but it's upward by 1.73% appreciation. For Ether, current price is 1,662.7 US dollar to 1 Ether, upward by 42 points and a 2.64% appreciation. Binance is slightly downward, Cardano a little here, a little there. Solana, not reasonable in the market, a negative decline of 3%, and Ripple slightly upward in the market. Would be a good time to look at what's happening with global stocks. The stock market, we begin with European shares as European shares rebound. The DAX was up 0.4% this morning and the Stoxx 600 gained 0.2% this morning, attempting to recover from 2 straight sessions of losses as investors digest fresh corporate results and the latest FOMC meetings. And the minutes showing Fed participants continued to anticipate further increases in borrowing costs. The tech sector was among the top performers after chipmaker Nvidia issued a bullish outlook. That's the outlook from the European perspective of the stock market. Let's come back home looking at the Nigerian stock market. The Nigerian Exchange Limited closed with 29.58 trillion naira market capitalization on Wednesday. The figure was 68.78 billion naira, or 0.23% higher than the 29.51 trillion naira the bourse posted on Tuesday. The all-share index rose by 126.22 basis points to close at 54,315.53 points. Investors traded 129.91 million shares valued at 3.92 billion naira in 2,678 deals. Let's look at the top gainers. John Holt led the gainers list with a 14 kobo rise in share price, moving from 1 naira 46 kobo to 1 naira 60 kobo per share. And a look at the bottom losers. Magnicol stopped the loser stable after shedding 9.84% to drop from 61 kobo to 55 kobo per share. The top trading volume. ICO led the day's trading volume with 16.17 million shares, valued at 9.62 million naira. This is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Business 360. Thank you for watching. My name is Blyden Kem.